So you think you're ready to homestead? Well, I've got a list of 5 things that you might not be expecting when you get started. And so we're going to share that with you today. Hey everybody, this is Jeff from the Great Heights Homestead, and I want to talk about the list of things that you might not expect. But before we begin, I'll talk about 2 things real quick. First, I'm not dead yet. It's one of my favorite t-shirts, actually. It's obviously my Monty Python quote. But if you watched last week's video, I just wanted to let you know that I'm doing better. I've still got a long road to recovery, but we're getting there. And the other thing is this thing right here. And I will talk more about that in another video, but this right here is a game changer, and it changes what we're going to be doing from really being a hobby to actually trying to be successful. Not trying to be successful, we're going to be successful. We've always tried to make do and get by, and I think having this, and I want to say thank you to everybody who made this possible, it just is going to change things. So I think we're gonna get to that. So on with the list. All right, so the first thing on our list is, whoa, how am I going to get these things home? So we're sitting in our van because this is literally how we get almost every animal home. I think we brought some animals home in my car at one point in time, but for the most part, the van, or the old one that we had before, is how we get animals home. So I brought each of the kids. These are some of the older kids who have participated in helping getting the animals home, and I want them to share their adventures. So Katie, tell us your story about bringing animals home.
Okay, thing number 1, never get sheep. It always rains.
Yeah, it seemed like every time we went to pick up sheep, it was pouring rain. Go ahead.
Okay, so we went to pick up the sheep. So first of all, when we brought them home, they escaped. They went swimming in our creek. It's fine.
That's coming up in the next one, by the way.
Oops.
That's okay.
You should put spoiler alert.
Keep going.
Okay, so when we went to get the sheep, we went to this farm that had a goat and baby sheep. That's like all I remember.
You don't remember a whole lot, yeah. So
I
that day,
a whole lot because I was so little.
So that day so they're kind of actually combining 2 memories there. We got sheep in 2 different batches. So the first day we got there, I remember calling the farm that day and saying, "Are you guys ready for us?" And then thinking, "Wait a minute, I have no idea how we're going to get these things home."
I remember it was the middle of the night.
It was late. It was late when we ended up getting.
It was like 9.
Well, it wasn't.
When we finally got home.
Yeah, it was late when we finally got home and got them all settled in.
And then
but it was actually daytime, but it was really dark because it was thundering and lightning. It was ridiculous. But we got there, or I called some friends and I was like, "How do we transport these things?" And they said, "Well, dog cages." Do you guys remember putting them in
the dog cages?
We put.
I remember naming them James and
yeah,
other things and Joseph, and that was weird.
Yeah, but we stuffed 6 little lambs in 2 dog cages, and then we realized these goats had never, they were sheep, had never been outside. We had set up outside pens for them, and they'd never been outside, and so we had to buy hay from the farmers.
Same day, we put the sheep in their cages, and then the hay went on top of them.
Right. And then the second event, we went to go. We lost a sheep, which we'll talk more about that later. So I went and bought another one from another farmer who was getting rid of their sheep, and they had little lambs and a donkey, and they were fun to see. So
I remember walking outside full of little kids because they were screaming. I was taking them out to you. And then I was just walking out, and suddenly 6 sheep just start running at me in the middle of the dark. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. All right, so that's Katie's story. All right, so the kids have moved. And Liam is now going to tell us the story he remembers best about picking up animals.
All right. This was the first time, well,
coffee slurp.
it would have been like the second or third time we got goats, but first time we actually got bulk amount of goats.
Yes.
We went to this specific farm, Stokey Farms. If you're in the western
New York.
Rochester area, check it out. We went to this farm. We got four goats. Four goats this day. A few days later, we got 2 more. We got a billy and 3 does.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun because
yogurt, cheese.
Wasn't it raining that day too?
It was drizzling.
Yeah, it was drizzling a little that day.
Guys.
It was drizzling a little that day, and we were smarting off not to bring the van because it was muddy.
Yeah.
So we brought Dad's car.
I'm remembering this.
Well, we brought it to the main farm. The goats weren't there, so we got the owner of the farm. We went over to the other farm where they were. Got them. Apparently the goats didn't like their pen, so they were off somewhere else.
Yes.
Took us, a half hour to locate and finally get them riled up.
That was rounded up, yeah, but it was half an hour, 45 minutes between when we arrived at the farm and we were able to round them up and catch them and put them in the back of the van, or in the back of the car. And, you know, the problem with trying to transport them in an SUV or any vehicle like this is you've got one entrance door, which is that big hatchback. And so it's like, okay, I got the first one. Yeah, we got it. How do I get the rest of the stupid animals in here?
Yeah.
So we ended up, we opened the side door and like shoving them over the seat.
That was fun. And then we didn't want to chance it with the Billy until we, got it all sorted out. So the owner and one of their friends put it in the cab of the pickup truck while we went back to the other farm and, talked, because we were friends with them at that point. Yeah. So we went back, we talked, and, had
and we shoved the Billy in the
apple
back,
cider. And, we shoved him in the back of the truck.
So that was...
And then drove home.
Yeah, it was, so it's, it never goes smoothly. We always end up with something going wrong, like chasing the animals at the farm that we're trying to pick them up from. So, and then trying to figure out how the heck to get them in.
Yeah, but the best part, this is my favorite part, we had nothing set up for them to go in.
You shoved them in my garden.
Yeah, and poor Katie, we'd called her, like, Katie, please set up the electric fence, or untangle the electric fence before we get home. Guess what didn't happen. So
hey, I untangled it and set it up.
I know.
The thing was that they were too tall. They didn't get over it.
We didn't have the electric charger anymore.
So we just put them in the garden, and that was that.
Okay. All right. So up to this point, we've talked about ruminant animals. We've had goats and sheep, but when we moved to this property, we actually started getting into some different animals. So Abby is going to talk to us about those.
Don't die.
All right, Abby.
Okay. When we got the smaller pigs,
The mini pigs, yeah.
Dad went and got them, and then he left one of them in a car, which got out of the box, and was just running around, and everyone was like screaming and crying, and they're like, "The pig's gonna get me!"
So to understand, she was the oldest child with us that night. We had all the little kids, and I had originally taken we got a tote when the pictures showed pigs that looked much smaller, and so when we got there and I caught this first pig, I'm going, I'm not sure this is gonna sit in the tote. So we put it in the tote, and it immediately jumped right back out, right? And I was like, slam the door shut. And poor Abby's in here with all the little kids, and this pig's running around the floor. We got the second one, and it's also ran around the floor, right?
Yeah. Imagine the farmer from the outside, like, watching the van shake and screaming inside.
It was hilarious. Both of us were standing there. I'm trying to pay him and just not laugh my butt off as the van's going. And all the screaming coming from inside. He's like, "Are you going to be okay on the way home?" So yeah, we were okay. But then, you know, obviously, the tote wasn't going to work. We had an hour and a half drive home, right? And for the first 30 minutes, because we went and stopped and saw my wife. She was at the hospital with the baby. First 30 minutes, the pigs just ran around the van, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
And then Colby, who was sitting right where Katie is, was going, "Oh no, the pigs are right below me!"
Eventually, we stopped and were able to capture the pigs. And I had not intended to put the lid on the tote with the pigs in it because you know, it doesn't have any air holes or anything. But it's like, you're getting in here. We're gonna keep an eye on you, and you know, they made it home okay. But yeah, definitely when you do pigs, you need to make sure you've got a secure container for them. When we did the full-size pigs, we actually built like a cardboard
Barrier.
bin for them back there. You know, we took some of the seats out and put cardboard in there. So yeah, pigs are definitely an adventure. Okay, so number 2 is sheep got in the creek. What the heck? So normally ruminant animals and sheep and goats really don't like water. But to prove that they will go in the water, the very first night we got the sheep, as Katie was talking, Katie's over there. Katie's over there. Katie was talking about when we went to get the sheep, that night did not go as planned. It really did not go as planned. So the first thing that happened was that we got home, and like I said, I realized that they didn't really have, they'd never been outside, so they needed to be acclimated to being outside. So we were going to put them in our barn. I took the ladder that was down for the loft. We were going to try to mount that on the side, and as we're getting them out of the van, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they all went great, except for the fifth one. We got the fifth one out. Hang on. We got the fifth one out, and somebody forgot to latch the dog cage. And
Brian.
sheep number 6 bolts, right? Now, it is pouring rain. It's dark. It's cold. We're still trying to, the screws we bought were just a little too short to actually mount the fence, or you know, the ladder up against the wall to hold these sheep in, and we were still trying to figure out exactly how to make sure they were going to stay in. So we've got 5 people in there trying to work on that, and then we've got Sean, who wasn't there, or who isn't here now, and myself out trying to chase this stupid sheep around the yard. Now it goes on our yard, it runs across to our neighbor's yard. They've got 10 acres, we've got 5 acres. It runs into the other neighbor's yard, it goes back and forth. And it's, like I said, it is pouring rain. Now we've got this creek in the back of our yard. It's way in the back. And normally it's dry, but it's about waist deep in the deepest spot, right? Yeah, thank you. Waist deep. In the deepest spot. And Sean, it basically wore Sean out. And then I'm trying to chase this stupid thing.
Huh, Sean? You know as fast as you thought.
He was only 13 at the time.
What the?
So,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I go out and I chase the sheep.
It does not match.
I go out and chase the sheep, and it's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and finally it heads back toward the creek. I'm like, okay, I got it, because they don't like water. It jumps in the creek as I get closer to it. And the stupid thing, you know, I try not to anthropomorphize animals because obviously they're going to be food. So we try not to anthropomorphize them too much. But it had a look on its face like, holy, what did I just do? It just stopped. And had the funniest look on its face. Which gave me the moment to jump in the creek. Again, waist deep, ice cold water, not fun. And a 40-pound sheep turned into about an 80-pound animal soaking wet. So, yeah, that was that night. It was an adventure. All right, so after we got the sheep, we also got other animals, and Liam is going to talk about his favorite adventure with that.
My favorite adventure was the big pigs. when they got out. This was all Grandpa's fault. Just want to get it out there. But we were setting up the electric fence. They had never been in an electric fence. We were setting it up. We charged it and we're watching them for a little bit. They got scared, jumped the fence and ran.
Yeah,
Grandpa had the funniest comment. I'm not gonna say it, but they were just running around. We searched for them for like 3 or 4 hours, only to find out that they came back because they wanted water.
yeah. So
yeah,
but
that was it.
yeah, pigs will run away too. All right, so
They're
then
not afraid of water.
yeah, they aren't. That's the other thing is pigs are not afraid of water. They will swim.
The whole yard was fenced in, so they couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, but it was a matter of we wanted them up close to the house. Okay. So when Liam talked in number 1 about when we picked up those 4 goats, when we got them home, the adventure did not stop. So Katie's going to talk about what we did there.
Okay, so when we got them, they were in their fence for a good day, and then we decided the next day we were going to go to Stokey Farms. So we got home, and the goats are gone. Okay, so we get home and they're gone. We're like, where'd the heck they go? So Liam, me, and Abby start looking for them, and we eventually find them. They were in our neighbor's yard. So we chased them around for like a whole day, trying to get them in there, and by the time Dad got home, it was dark out.
Oh, might I just add, Dad was about an hour and a half away on work.
Yeah. So when he eventually came home, it was like dark, and one of our friends had come over to help us look, and we couldn't find them. So the next day, Dad was off work, or he was working from home, one of the two. But then that day, we had this whole elaborate planned idea. So we knew where they were. At least we had a general idea. So we had taken and set up these things. We had a fence in our neighbor's yard, we had a bike at the corner of our yard, and we had 3 people positioned in weird places. So one person was going to chase them down from Jenkins. That was the road right next to ours. And then that person who had the bike was going to take the bike, and they were going to chase them on the bike. And then once that person got the goats into the yard, the other people would have to chase them up. It didn't work. It didn't work. Apparently the bike had a flat tire. And the whole thing did not work. But it was worth it.
It was funny. The saddest part about that one was when the goats finally came back. We'd taken a break.
They just walked
and they walked back into their fence. It's like, what the heck? All right, so the last adventure we're going to talk about is when the larger pigs escaped a second time. And I'm going to leave that to Abby to talk about.
We think it was Ellie. Okay, so this one, and this one, and all of the older people were all gone.
Poor Abby gets stuck a lot with little kids.
The pigs decided, hey, somebody left a door open. Let's go run into somebody's yard. So they're just running away. They're sitting at the top of the driveway and running and hiding. At some point, they decided to run down the road a little bit and hide in a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
So, what did I do?
You basically chased them all over the place, didn't you?
Not really. Mom didn't want to leave the yard.
Okay. So yeah, they ended up, and I've talked about this one a little bit in one of the other videos. So I'll link that up right up here if you want to hear more about that adventure. But basically, yeah, poor Abby was stuck with trying to track these pigs down or keep an eye on where the heck they were while we were gone. And of course, it always happens when we're out of the house, right? So that's runaway animal. So number 3 on our list is what I'm going to call generous neighbors. So a number of years ago, we had hens like we have now, and we didn't have a rooster. So that year we'd ordered chickens from the hatchery, and what happens is you lose a few along the way, always. And so all the ones that turned out to be roosters didn't make it. So we didn't have a rooster, which was fine, whatever. But one morning, and we specifically knew we didn't have a rooster that year, and one morning we woke up and we could hear a rooster outside of our house. So what happens sometimes is, and we're gonna go ahead and move because there's these ones underneath us are too noisy. So what sometimes happens is people will buy chickens very much like us, and they get a rooster along with their batch, and they live in a suburb, in a suburban neighborhood, and the roosters are noisy. I mean, just like the ones we were just over there, we're sitting on their cage over there, making them upset. But they're noisy, and people sometimes don't get that. And they'll go crow for hours. This isn't like a cartoon, right? They crow for several hours sometimes. And
5 times a day.
And so what had happened was our very generous neighbors noticed we had chickens. somebody did a drive-by drop-off during the night and left us a rooster.
Deployed a chicken.
Worked out. The rooster was pretty decent until we get to the when we talk about the next number 4. We'll get to that in just a second. But on the other side, on the flip side, generous neighbors, our neighbor from up the street up here, or excuse me, just right next door, they raise hens as well. And they had
more roosters than they could ever need.
Yeah, they had more roosters than they could ever need. And so
they gave us 8.
Yeah, so
8 roosters.
He gave us 8 of his roosters. We're going to keep one, and we're going to put the others in the freezer. But we got 8 roosters for free. So generosity goes both ways when you're doing homesteading. All right, so number 4 on our list is Danger, Will Robinson. So we think about when we think about animals, livestock in general, most people do understand that there are some dangers inherent with having livestock, right? You know, you get stepped on by a cow, you're gonna know it. You know, pigs are known for, if you pass out, they'll try to eat you if they're hungry enough. Pigs are actually opportunistic omnivores, and so they'll eat anything that is laying down. So you can't keep other animals with them. But what you might not expect is what you might not expect is some of the smaller animals, like chickens, being dangerous. Now I'm going to zoom in on Robert's face here, and there's a reason. You can see right here, turn your face that way just a little bit, and right here on his face, we had a rooster. It was actually our drop-off rooster, and he was really a nice rooster. No real issues up to this point, but then he was about, this guy's side, maybe a little bit older than him, and the rooster was standing on our back porch because we let them free range, and he was up on the back porch, and Robert opened the door, and what happened? The rooster jumped in his face.
I don't call it like that. I very much recall they escaped, and then we were trying to put them back. Okay. And jumped off the tail.
Yeah, and it jumped up in his face, and it got him with both claws there, so close to his eyes. I was really worried. That rooster immediately went in the cook pot, by the way. Or
we didn't actually get to eat it.
We didn't get to eat it because I went out and I killed it, and I was letting it hang for a little bit, and critters got to it before we get to it. But honestly, you gotta think about the dangers that are inherent in all these animals. They are all bred and designed to defend themselves. And in this case, he was startled. The rooster was startled by the opening door, and it was kind of just defending itself. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a mean rooster. It wasn't one that plucks at you or pecked at you or anything like that. But it could have been really bad. Yeah, so really bad. Just keep that in mind. All animals on the homestead are dangerous in their own way. Not necessarily deadly. Not necessarily deadly. If you have a cow, like I said, you might get smushed. You got larger pigs, you might have issues with that. But the small animals can do just as much damage. Trust me, and a 150-pound goat stepping on your foot or ramming you. We had a young ram who would not leave the kids alone. He ended up having to leave the farm as well. But they can be dangerous. So just
what I was gonna mention, the time the sheep warmed into me and Ellie.
What's that?
The time that the sheep warmed into me and Ellie.
Oh, the sheep. Yeah, they sometimes they'll get, you know, if they see a kid who's younger than them, you definitely need to be careful about that with the little kids. Most animals, most of the time, are super gentle, super easy to work with, and you don't have to worry too much. But you do need to pay attention because they are animals. They're, you know, like any other animal out there. They can, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose, they can hurt you. So that's number 4. Excuse me. That's number 4. Danger, Will Robinson. All right. So number 5 on our list is the one that probably most people don't want to hear about, and that is we're going to call it livestock dead stock. The reality of having animals is that eventually you are going to have some that die. We've had our share of the sheep when we first got them. One of them ended up dying. That was why we had, the kids remember, 2 different sheep incidences. The first one was going and picking them up, and then one of those died, so we went and picked up a couple more. We did everything we could. We were new to animals, obviously, but we'd done our research, and we were doing our best to try to figure out why, how to take care of them, and but still one of them died. We bought a goat here when we first moved here, and after she gave birth to her 2 kids, who both died, unfortunately, she also died. Whether that was because of an infection that we didn't catch fast enough or what, I'm not 100% sure how she died. We also had, we had a baby goat that the mom had rejected and that we were keeping, close eye on. We actually had it in the house with us. We're starting to transition to moving it outside, and it managed to die. This is a reality of owning livestock. You can do everything you can to try to make sure that they are healthy and that things go on, and animals, they just die occasionally. And as much as you don't want to hear that, he's very happy about this. As much as you don't want to hear that, that is a reality. Animals do die when you're trying to raise them. We've had chickens die. We've had, obviously last year we lost all of our guinea hens to our cats, which that cat actually has gone away now. But yeah, the reality is that that's just what happens, is that, accidents happen, or, cold or infection or something, and sometimes it happens really fast. You notice in the morning that the animal is just fine, and by afternoon it's gone. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so obviously this list only has 5 things on it, and so it's absolutely not all-inclusive. But if you've enjoyed this list and you have other things you'd like to add to it, please, leave a comment below. Thoughts of things I should have included, or thoughts on what we said. Please feel free to leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you liked our video, please give it a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. Hopefully, this has been somewhat informative for you. And we can do these kinds of lists, or just do these kinds of videos in the future if you'd like, to give you as much information as we can. And yeah, so like I said, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And until next time.